there's been this habit, I'd say, in the Democratic Party that when they lose, there's really not a ton of introspection per se. Lost to Trump in 2016. Instead of looking at the underlying reasons they lost, they created a new Cold War. Again, Russia and all that stuff. Then in 2020, when
China
Biden
now.
Biden barely by the skin of his teeth won, even though he had all the breaks. He didn't win by that much in the Electoral College, or popular vote. He won by a lot, but not in the Electoral College. Their lesson from that was, oh wait, neoliberalism is popular, even though we know most people didn't vote for Biden. They voted to get rid of Trump. So Paul Begala, who worked for the Clintons, is a longtime what I call Democrat gas bag. And there's plenty of Paul Begalas on the Republican side too. They're both terrible, Republicans, Democrats. But Paul Begala was on, I think, CNN, and he was asked about, what's going on with Biden and the Democrats. Why is he not getting anything done? Why is voting rights about to fall to, sadly, a death because of Manchin and Sinema? Let's just play this whole clip because it really sets up a wonderful, wonderful reaction.
Let me start with you and the words of the daughter-in-law of Martin Luther King Jr., Andrea Waters King. This is what she told Politico, quote, "What we have seen with President Biden is what happens when he puts the full force and power behind an issue like infrastructure. What we want to see is that same power and passion being put behind voting rights." Do you think that's fair criticism? Did President Biden put more effort into getting infrastructure passed, for example?
Well, he got infrastructure passed, and that's a good thing because success can breed success. He is putting the full force of the presidency behind it. I think the problem for the Democrats right now is not that they have bad leaders. They have bad followers. Okay, I read the most amazing essay today from Andy Young. Andy was former mayor of Atlanta, former UN ambassador, and more importantly, probably the closest confidant and aide to Dr. King. He told this story. December of 1964, Andy Young and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. go to see Lyndon Johnson to push him for a Voting Rights Act. Johnson says, "I can't do it. I used all my power to get the Civil Rights Act done last year. I don't have the power to push Congress any further on voting rights." As they left the White House, Andy Young's words, he said, I asked Dr. King what he thought. He said, "I think we got to go get the president some power." And so you know what they did? They organized. These are Andy Young's words. "We mobilized the churches, the universities, the labor unions, the business community, a coalition of people of goodwill." In other words, those of us who want to save voting rights, we need to get to work. I do think Biden is putting everything behind this, but he needs better followers. So he needs all of us in the game as well.
I remember what he said about the power of big business in that moment in moving the hand of politicians.
Steve, aside from that Martin Luther King anecdote, which, I'm sure was accurate, what are your thoughts that the president, who is the most powerful man on earth, I believe, still, that he needs to be given power from activists and, voting rights groups and, the whole army of Democrat, he used the term followers, that he doesn't have enough power on his own or enough of the bully pulpit on his own. It's our fault that nothing's getting done.
First of all, I'm going to age myself here, but tell me Paul Begala does not look like the great Kazoo from the Flintstones. I mean, can't you imagine him with the green helmet like Rolf Benershka of the Chargers? Anyway, that notwithstanding, it's absolutely preposterous because you watch as the quote unquote bad followers gathered together to push Medicare for all to try to get it in there. And what happened to the great leader in chief? He fucking gave us the finger and walked away. He said, "No, I'm not doing it." What happened with the Green New Deal? He says, "I'm not backing a Green New Deal. Fuck a Green New Deal. I'm not doing a Green New Deal." There's all your followers, old Joe, Jolton Joe and a cup of Joe. He pushes us away every time we tell him what matters to us. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, after he's literally killed any kind of goodwill he had coming out of getting rid of Trump, now all of a sudden we're the bad guys and we're supposed to be lifting this sack of corpse up the stairs, and it almost feels like one of those movies, Weekend at Bernie's, except Weekend at Joe Biden's. And you could see him in the back, and we're kind of propping him up, and he's slumping over. This is the kind of fecklessness that has defined the Democratic Party for a long time now. But this right here is like next level stuff, man. He outdid himself. Paul Begala went yard. He called his shot, and he said, I am going to go so completely absurd, you can't even take it away from me. I am the OG of absurdity. He just went yard. Complete bullshit.
This notion that, oh no, Biden is just, he's powerless and he's just in some fetal position, and we need the activists. We need the activists to storm the gates of the Washington, not January 6th style, but like in protest, to give Biden the political capital. It's half-assed backwards. The truth is, you just said it. He preemptively surrendered on a $15 minimum wage. That wasn't because of Democratic followers. That was because of him. He used the BS parliamentarian. Public option, gone. $2,000 checks, gone. Police reform,
Student debt?
Gone. Student debt, gone. None of that had to do with Democratic followers. And it's kind of a mutually exclusive thing. When the president and his party moonwalk away from these things, then you deflate the followers, as Paul Begala says, who don't come out because you're not actually activating them.
You got to go back to when I saw you for the first times, Standing Rock and on the big screen for TYT, when you were covering the convention for the first go around. The base was electrified to support Bernie Sanders. It was electrified for progressive movement, electrified across the board. However, Democrats' own policies within the party have taken such a toll on the rank and file progressive and the people. Progressives are the ones that show up in the streets. It's not your rank and file business class establishment goon. They might go there with the pink pussy hats on, but the average is you don't have everybody going in the streets. You have progressives going in the streets. And when you don't have progressives going in the streets, you have to look within, because progressives want change. They're willing to fight. They're ready to fight. They've been ready to fight. So you got to look at the fact that the Democratic Party keeps propping up people like Biden through their bullshit with their superdelegates and all the rest of it. So kind of when you think about a Voting Rights Act for the national, you ask yourself, what are we really getting? There's so much structurally wrong here, and they're looking down. They're looking down at us. Begala looking down at us, saying, hey, you guys need to give us air cover. But every step along the way, we're told to fall in line. Every step along the way, we're told just to shut up and eat our peas, Obama. Each step along the way, they have made us irrelevant, whether it be in Iowa, whether it be in New Hampshire, whether it be in Las Vegas, whether it be any of the other southern states when Clyburn put his thumb on there with Clinton, et cetera. Each time the activist base steps up and says, this is what we want, we're shut down, we're squashed. And so now all of a sudden they want to pull this card out about voting rights of all things. I mean, just on its face, this is a very important subject, an incredibly important subject. And yet at the same time, it is so deliciously repulsive that they are trying to act like they're the champions for voting rights, when in fact they have eliminated any sense of democracy from the selection process or the involvement of said activists that are now supposed to get excited about backing up a corpse who's up there in the White House. It's just incredible. Incredible.
Well, I also think, and this Edward Snowden just happened to kind of say exactly what I was thinking too. Edward Snowden tweeted out, if you have this, Colin, at some point, the DNC corporate media blob may want to reconsider whether sabotaging the candidate with a genuine lifelong focus on the struggles of the working class was really the galaxy brain play they imagined. And under that, he shows that party identification, basically Republican Party registration is going up while Democratic registration is going down.